Welcome to Mystics MMOs. I'm your host, Mystic Raven. All right, guys. I'm back on Final Fantasy 14, and today I want to talk about performance from an MMO standard. I mean, I really, really do. I'm gonna expand this just really quick, and I really like. There's just it's amazing to me. Um, Let me see if this throws it up. Yeah. So just messing around, I get about 60 frames pretty consistently. Close to 60 frames consistently in this game. Without a glitch, a hiccup, whatever. And if I turn down the graphics and some of the settings, I can get 90. And I start wondering and I start contemplating one thing. Why, with the exception of World of Warcraft, which has low end resolution, so it should perform pretty well. Why Western companies can't seem to get performance down? Why? It becomes my question. It's like, why are we as Western players meant to suffer? Now there's many different topics on this, like one of them being our infrastructure, how we set up our internet. Europe and Asia have way better connection than we do, and that's a fact, unfortunately, because we are still using coax cables and satellites. Go figure. I don't know, man. I don't know. The greed in America just is a little raunchy. They talk about innovation, but nobody wants to throw money towards it. That's for sure. And the companies that do, man, they make a killing. So when it comes down to it, I'm like, we are, but that's not the case here. And that's what I'm always telling people. I'm like, well, listen, I understand. I really do about the Western infrastructure of how we have our internet supplied to us. I understand that. But now here becomes the big point. I'm like, I'm located in America, playing an Asian-based product, and I'm still getting better performance than I would with a Western game. And it start to make you wonder, when companies develop their products, do they not take their their MMO, the connection to their servers and how they set up their servers as serious as the Asian based market? Because there is a significant difference. I cannot lie about that. There is. There's a significant difference in performance. And I don't necessarily like it. I acknowledge it because it makes me a little upset that sometimes companies with bigger budgets somehow still are unable to provide a I played so many games that had really good, everything you wanted, but the performance was shit. Like, performance was just not good. And you're like, what happened? What happened to, to this game? Like, everything's here. The combat's here, the graphics are here, the quests are here. It's just the performance is terrible, right? It's laggy. You got rubber banding left and right. You're getting disconnected for no obvious reasons. No bugs even spawning a proper disconnect from server. And then you're literally sitting there like, how much money, how much did they fund towards their initial, service? It's like if you want to be it's like McDonald's having a drive-through without the telecom. It's like, how can anybody take an order or give an order if there's no machine out there that is communicating between the employee and the customer? You'd be basically having to walk on in, right, to get your service. But we think fast food and drive-throughs, right, is a faster method of delivery, which is true. There's this thing in the fast food industry called drive-through times. And basically, from the time a customer pulls up, right, to place their order, the time starts to the time they actually get the food delivered to them, and it's called a drive-through time. And certain companies have standards based on performance of their drive-through time and service. And I wonder, for the Western companies, do they set those type of standards in place, right? Are they putting enough resources in their product to ensure customer satisfaction? Because make no doubt, if you don't have customer satisfaction, you don't have returning customers. And I've mentioned this multiple times in certain games. Like, I love the game. The performance is just shit. And it makes you a little upset. Once again, I love the visuals. It's kind of hard to get back into a turn-based system. I felt like this game is going to hold up at least for another couple more years, just based on the principle of how well its performance and its graphics are. The graphics will update well. Just joined. Was it Final Fantasy 14 you were talking about that had bad servers and laggy, but client performance good? No, this actually performed. It's not Final Fantasy 14. Matter of fact, the problem, most of the issues, like the things, Chris, is Asian-based games. This is an Asian-based game. I believe this is Japanese. Most Asian games performance and servers are excellent. That's one thing I don't like grindy games, right? But I do leveled up. I leveled up. So the problem of it is Western games typically don't perform as well as Asian-based games. And I often ask myself, why is this? Why? Why, damn it? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't. And then you think to yourself, well, maybe it does, you know? Actually, maybe it does make sense because we've spent so much money in development that sometimes we don't put enough resources into sustaining, you know, we don't put it towards server stability. And I just went over that in my meeting yesterday. I'm like, I cannot stress enough. Like, game companies will fail typically if, you know, server stability is not present. Because customers don't like laggy games. And not in this day and age. It's unacceptable. It's like when you go from one game that's really laggy, has piss poor performance at times, it's very unstable, and then you move to a game like this, and you have, unless it's ISP on your end, something with your ISP or your connectivity, typically Asian-based products perform very well in comparison to Western-based products. And I literally am beside myself majority of the time why this occurs. It's like, why? Now, there are exceptions. Once again, like World of Warcraft, really well done, performs well. Also, Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic, SWTOR, performs very well. EA has done a great job with server stability in that game. So there are games out there from a Western culture that do take their servers and their service serious. And that's what I'm saying. They should. There's this point that you want to make sure that you're keeping customers happy. Because it's just like any other type of business. You know, if a happy customer is a paying customer. You know, if you have terrible service and quality, well, players might not be so inclined to keep paying for that type of service. Alright. Skeletons in my Decroft. Alright. I don't think I got the thing yet. Let me check it out. I keep checking to see when I'm going to get the duty finder. Damn it, damn it, damn it, Jim. This game is really good. Like I said, the only thing it's crazy, it's very quest based. It's like I'm playing a single player game within an MMO. That's how I feel when I play this game. So I'm still waiting to have that multiplayer experience. I see players. I do. They're around. Oh, I hate this part. Okay. So games you are playing now are Final Fantasy 14 is running great. Have you tried PvP in Final Fantasy 14? How was the performance? I haven't tried PvP yet. People claim for it to be good, but you know, I mean, I have high standards, so I will be trying the PvP, and I'll be giving you guys my feedback on that. I do have very high standards when it comes to the PvP elements of MMOs. So that is something I do take pretty serious. So if there's PvP to be had here, they better have a very good PvP system. I mean, the combat could be really good, but I'm always looking for, you know, how they incentivize PvP, how PvP is structured. Is it a linear progression? What's the advantages and disadvantages of, you know, group play versus solo play? Okay, maybe I was unmuted. So, anyways, okay. I almost got Final Fantasy 14, but I am only gotten bad replies on how the PvP is in Final Fantasy 14. They say the game is very PvE focused, and PvP is not prioritized nor balanced, and there is no cross-server queue So queues are long and you fight the same players. Got you. And that's something that is a concern, isn't it? Because, you know, if there is no cross server queue system, that it becomes monotonous. I agree. I totally agree with that. Especially in a battleground environment, which we know that to be true, that it is a battleground structured product. But the question of it is like what's incentivizing it? I can imagine, like, I'm not worried about balance. So balance to me is irrelevant. Like, that's not what I look for in PvP. I don't. That's the last thing I put on my checklist, is how imbalanced the classes are. Balance to me is irrelevant, but counterplay is essential. If there's no proper countermeasure, right? Or, you know, and depending how the CC mechanics work, that could be detrimental to your PvP game in an MMO. It's the number one rule. It's like, okay, man. You know, and like I said, you know, I've just been doing this for a long time, and every time I would literally test for companies who had PvP systems in place, I'm like, what's the counter structure like? And, you know, and I'd go over it with them. I'm like, no, this is not going to work. And they'd be like, why? And I'm like, because you have this problem that's going to occur, and you're going to have to resolve it later. Because it's going to be considered OP as fuck. You know? You can't, it's not to say that you can't have a class that has a little bit more tactical advantages in close range combat versus a class that has more long range capabilities versus melee. Each will have their pros and cons. But the question of it is, and once again, reintegrating, is how counter mechanics become, you know, the principle behind the PvP, and how skilled gamers will overcome any obstacle, right, to, you know, get the kill. Because as long as you have proper counterplay, as long as it's proper, it's done correctly, then you don't have to worry about that. That's one of those things that you're typically not as, you know, worried about, is balance. Balance becomes your last concern. Not to say that you won't have to make adjustments, but is the counterplay feasible? So that's one thing I'll be breaking down. I'll be picking up other classes, grinding them out, taking a look at, and I'm hoping to do this within a few weeks. I mean, I won't get everything done, obviously, because I also have my work to do for the business stuff. But I'll be breaking down at least what's going on in the game. Why isn't the PvP? Is the PvP good? Is it incentivized? Is it linear? Is it separate from PvE? Is PvE influencing PvP? Is PvP could they have, you know, try to change PvP, but would that have a negative impact on PvE? These are things I will be taking a look at, because sometimes games will just implement a PvP system to attract PvPers, but it doesn't have viable PvP. So, like, Black Desert Online is a PvP game with PvE. That's what I tell people. It's a reverse system. But the PvP is so gear dependent that there's no accessibility. There's problems with accessibility and balancing. Well, if the balance is off, you see the same one or two classes running around, fight with the same skills, and the counter for the OP classes are the same OP classes with the same skills and attack. Right. So that's, you know, and that's something you have to take. That's why you have to be a little objective, right? Because what are you seeing and what are you not encountering, right? You have to be able to encounter something to understand the countermeasures, right? And that's why I've said, you know, one of the best things is, like, I felt like out of all the games I played in recent years, Elder Scrolls has the foundation to be the best PvP system, but the only problem it has is its Achilles heel is the counterplay. it doesn't have proper counter. It's not built to have proper counter because it was not structured properly in that essence. And when you don't do that, now you have these, and then add performance issues, obviously. Then you have the problem of people bitching about stuns, emo pots, proc sets, so on and so forth. And it just keeps going on and 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 on. And it's like, that's what happens. That's the junk of when you fuck PvP up. When you fuck PvP up, that's what you get. That's what you get. You will, if you fuck PvP up for an MMOer, you have people always going to bitch. Not to say that you won't have somebody complaining or not liking it. Everybody has a preference, right? So what some people might, one man's trash is another man's treasure. We know that. We know the saying. Yeah, boy. Stupid buzzards. So I'm going to have coffee with my sister-in-law this morning. I'm going to take my grandkids. My daughter has to go to court today. Child support against her ex. And I have to do something for an hour. And luckily, her aunt lives like 10 minutes away from the courthouse. So I'm going to pick up some coffee. I'm drinking coffee right now. She's actually off today, but she loves her nephews and nieces. Oh shit. But it also feels like ESO PvP is built and kept by PvE devs, right? So that they do not get what you just said, but VG PvP is its own game as PvE is, right? Right, and that's the problem. The problem with Elder Scrolls is the combat's being developed by PvE developers that don't understand the PvP mechanics. They're not getting it, and you like, I can lead a horse to water, but you know, unfortunately, unless you're willing to understand, unless you have experience with this, you're fucked. You know, you have to understand PvP, or you have to have somebody there. I've said it before. I've said they just should get Fang Rush and put them in there for a couple of weeks. Put them in there for like a month. You'll get better results. And it seems the PvP in Final Fantasy is also that, right? It could be. I don't know. I have no idea. I've never PvP'd in this game, so I honestly can't say. I've never played the PvP in Final Fantasy, so I have nothing to compare it to as of yet. Believe you and me, I will. I will rip it apart. If I see any type of flaws, I will not hesitate to criticize what's going on within the game. Huh, honey? Hey, make sure you leave me your prescription so I can drop it off. Sam's picking you up today, Alyssa. Okay. Typically I'd be taking you, but things got a little crazy. Did you hear me, Tori? I need your prescription, honey. Thank you. Just leave it on the mantle. It is a PvE combat put in PvP. Well, that's fine. There's ways of utilizing your PvE combat system to introduce the PvP. That's not the issue. The issue is understanding the PvE application and whether or not it's conflicting to the PvP element, and vice versa. That's the problem. But you might really like Overwatch. I've tried Overwatch. I actually like Paladins better than Overwatch. Yeah, I really don't like the fact that in Overwatch, if somebody wants, like, there's pre-selected screens and everybody's fighting for characters. I like Paladins better than that. That's why I couldn't get into Overwatch. I'm like, everybody wants to bitch about a character. Get off this. I want that character. Oh, but, you know, it's like, oh my god. That's why I couldn't stand it. I kept trying to wonder. I'm like, the combat's not the problem for me in Overwatch. I'm like, there's something else going on. Made by PvPers. Yeah, no, the combat's good. The combat's good. But my problem of it was just like, people were fighting over it because there was not enough classes that could do the same thing. So I kept saying to myself, holy shit, like, what is going on here? Then I played Paladins, and then I was like, okay, this is a lot better. It's the same kind of concept, but actually I like Paladins better because there are multiple healers, there are multiple of this class or that class. Yeah. I don't like it if you restrict something to one character. And everybody's, you know, like, oh, well, I wanted the hog. I wanted, you know, it's like, oh my god. Combat's good. The combat's good. Don't get me wrong. The combat's perfect. I really do like Overwatch gameplay, the style. It wasn't the game itself. It was the limitations. It's like, really? Really? Come on, guys. Come on. Come on! Don't make me smack you. And then I played that. Okay, that has never happened for me. Right. Well, when it does, you'll wanna quit. You'll wanna quit really bad. Oh, what the fuck? Right, Toad. I have not seen that problem at all. What? Players fighting over? And you should definitely watch some Twitch players. There are people like literally bitching about it. Becomes its own little thing. Does not happen, dude. What? To you? It has happened. It's happened to many people. I've been playing Overwatch from day one, and you're telling me that doesn't happen? It's never happened. You sure about that, Chris? Are you a betting person? I'll pull up a video and link it to you. It happens all the time, dude. It happens all the time. That's the problem. I bumped into it from the first time I tried it. Get off the fucking hog. I'm taking the hog. I'm playing this. If it doesn't happen, it's because you take whatever. And you'll play whatever. But it does happen. It does. It's a problem. It's a problem. I couldn't get into it because of it. I couldn't. I was like, nope, nope, done, done. Throw this game in the trash. I'm like, you don't restrict shit like that. Not when you have competitive play. I'm like, it's good. The combat's awesome. It's good combat. I felt like it should have got a better score, and it would have gotten a better score by the players. Like, it's in Pro League. It's got Pro. The comp is the problem. What? Competition or computer? Not the heroes? No, what I'm telling you, Chris, is what ends up happening are players will say, I want to play as this character. I want to play as this hero. We are our 5 DPS and an off healer. Yeah, I mean, I understand that. But what I'm saying is certain players want to play as a certain hero on a team. And if you get on that hero, right, they can't play as it. Right? You can't have two of the same type of people in that. Right? You can't. And it's like, what the fuck? Why? 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 Why can't I? Why can't two players play as like that? It happens like 0.5% of the game. He took my hit scan hero. Okay, I'll just take another hit scan hero. Right, but that's what I'm trying to tell you. People want to play as a certain hero. And that game's restricting. Because, you know, there's not as many as like Paladins. Paladins is the same thing as Overwatch. It's the same damn game mechanic. Almost the same structure. The only difference between Paladins and Overwatch is Paladins has a slew more character selection than Overwatch. That's why I kind of was like, okay, I like this because there's more selection. Like, I feel like Overwatch should be investing in more and more and more heroes. If they do that, I think that it would be a better experience for me. But when you bump in, when you try a game, and people are bitching already about you being on a certain character, that turns you off right away. It turns me off. It's like, okay, listen, man, you can't play as anything else. That's my tune. What, really? Why is it your tune? Oh, get the fuck off. It's like, dude, seriously, man. This is, you know, it becomes the type of shit you don't want to deal with. No, what you're talking about is really not a problem. There are so many heroes now that is not a problem. Okay. So, was it a problem? Because I remember it being a problem. And there's videos of multiple players highlighting the problem. So, was it a problem? Because when I take a look at it, let me hold on here. I might throw this up before I leave. I got to be leaving here soon. Okay. Now, let me show you guys Paladin heroes and Overwatch heroes. Well, here's the ranks. Oh my god. Hold on, I'm trying to find it. Okay. Excuse me, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. Okay, now, coming in. 1 second. The game is cool. It's just boring for some reason to me, and the combat I don't like neither. But anyways, what was your problem with ESO PvP? Because I'm having trouble with ESO PvP. Problem with me with ESO, it has no proper counterplay. It was never built for it. It has mechanical flaws, and it's the worst counterplay game in my existence. It's terrible. It's god fucking awful. They reversed everything in foundation of PvP. Okay, so I'm gonna pull this up so you guys can see this, and I'll explain this, Chris, what the difference is for me between Overwatch and Paladins. Now I do apologize, so it'll be a brief interruption here. Okay, you guys will be able to see this now. All right, so here we go. Overwatch tunes. These are the Overwatch heroes. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 14, 21, 28, 29. We have 29 Overwatch characters that you can play as. 29. That's pretty good, right? Wow, that's kind of cool. So champion on Paladins. Okay. Now, we got 1. This is the new one coming out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40 tunes versus 29. 40 to 29. And in the beginning, Overwatch had such restrictions in its initial release in comparison. That's why I couldn't put my finger on it. I couldn't. I'm like, why do I hate this game? The combat's good in Overwatch, but I hate it. I hate it. I hate Overwatch. There's something about Overwatch that I don't like. It's here, but I don't like it. And then I realized it's because people fucking complain about certain tunes. And I realized that later. I was like, oh, God. Okay. And then all of a sudden, I was a little limited, like hesitant to try Paladins. Because I already played Overwatch. I already got a bad taste in my mouth. But I went into Paladins to try it. And I come to realize Paladins from launch had more tunes than Overwatch. Those are facts. Those are facts. Well, if that is your problem with Overwatch, then you don't have any problem now. Right. But that was my problem. Right. That was my problem. I'm just saying that was my problem. And I realized it. Like, I'm like, listen, man, I don't know. I'm not saying I have it all figured out. I'm just like, if there's something I'm not seeing and I don't feel it, it's like, there's usually a good reason. There's usually a good reason. I'm not a person, I'm not like a train jumper. Like, I don't jump on it because millions of people do it. But in the start of Overwatch, there was no hero limit. You could have 6 of the same hero. Oh, yeah, right. And I feel like maybe that's what they should have kept in place, is what I'm saying, Chris. Because when they limited it, it seemed like that's when it started becoming, I guess, the problem, right? Because then players were just, that's what I'm saying. I feel like, when it started limiting, there was a huge, like fight amongst the player base. Like the game's badass. Don't get me twisted. I'm not saying the game's bad. I'm not saying the game is, I'm not saying the game's bad. I'm saying the game's good. The combat's good. It's excellent. But there was some reason why I was having a problem with Overwatch. And I realized that my problem with Overwatch wasn't the game, it was the community. In the fight, in the bickering over heroes. To me, that was the problem. And you still have that, almost the same element in Paladins, right? But it's not as apparent because there's just more selection. So you can literally say, we don't want this or that. I can play as this as my alternative. Where Overwatch at the time that I tried it, had more limiting selection. But people were bitching. So I guess that's my whole point. It's like, it's a good game. It's not my cup of tea. PvP's good, but once again, we're looking at a shooter-based game, and that's relevant as well. It's like I was competitive Battleground player for years. Very competitive. This was before esports launched. And I would get like, rank systems. My ranks, and I play any game that had a Battleground system that had a ranking system, I was playing. I was playing it. I hit GM in World of Warcraft 2 times in one season. That is a feat within itself. To get GM once is great. To get GM 2 times in a season, unheard of. It's not typically realistic. But I did it. And because I'm competitive, right? I'm very competitive. The problem of it is, though, and then in Rift, same thing. Rift had beautiful PvP. Like, at one time, like, the ranking system, when they finally established our ranking system, it was amazing. Okay, great talk, dude. Can't wait for your video about other MMOs and Final Fantasy 14. I gotta go. See you around. Okay, Chris, thanks for stopping in, brother. Yeah, I really did like Overwatch combat. I will say that. Like, a lot of shooters are a lot more competitive, I agree. But I'm not a very good shooter player. And I really, like, I feel MMOs nowadays are just missing out on the competitive level. It doesn't need to be balanced, okay? It doesn't need to be balanced. We don't need necessarily the balance behind the PvP. What we need is the proper counterplay to be introduced. You need experienced individuals to handle this. You cannot take a PvE dev and expect him to understand PvP. It doesn't fucking happen like that. That's just not the way it works. It's like mixing vinegar and water. Or vinegar and no, not vinegar and water. Vinegar and oil. Sorry. Totally blew up. You're right. You can eat it together, but the oil's always going to separate, right? Right? That's the way it is. You put oil in water, it's always going to separate. It doesn't mix together, right? And though we use it for dressing, go figure. So what you end up happening, oil and vinegar separate, right? Molecularly, they cannot bond. And that's the same element between PvE and PvP. Yes, they're both liquids. Yes, they're both part of the same, dressing that you put on your salad. Yes. Yes, players want their vinegar and oil. They want their Italian dressing. Damn right they do. But you have to understand, from a molecular structure, they have different elements that prohibit them from bonding. right? They're not cohesive. They cannot bond on a molecular structure, on a molecular level. And it's like, you have to understand that. You have to understand, yes, they're both going on the salad. Yes, people want both. Yes, yes, yes. But unless you keep in mind that they're both separate ingredients that are not bondable, and you keep them and you treat them as such, then your consumer and you will have a better experience, right? But the moment you try to justify that your oil is indeed a part of your vinegar, you're fucked. You're fucked. You'll fuck it up. And it's like, don't do it. Don't do it, boys and girls. Don't do it. You know? You can have them together. That's fine. You can do it. There are ways of doing it. And once again, we keep in perspective that PvE and PvP are separated. Okay, 1 second. All right, guys, I got to get going. I want to thank everybody for watching. Once again, I'm Mystic Raven. This is Mystics MMOs. And as always, thank you guys. And have a nice day.